The courthouse silence was broken only by the low hum of recording equipment. On that stifling Tuesday morning, the line outside the Federal District Court of Southern New York stretched for 2 blocks. Inside courtroom 214B, journalists from major networks filled the benches, their eyes fixed on the figure walking down the central aisle between 2 federal marshals, Michael B. Jordan. Wearing a dark suit with a composed expression, the actor approached the witness stand as the key witness in an extraordinary hearing titled, simply, Operation Eclipse. Judge Lawrence H. Mendelsohn, known for his strict demeanor, adjusted his glasses and announced firmly, "Mr. Jordan, are you aware that everything you say here may have criminal implications?" "Yes, Your Honor, and I'm ready to tell everything I witnessed." An uneasy murmur swept through the room. Social media exploded in real time with hashtags like Chalk Eclipse Hearing, Chart Jordan Testifies, and Shadow Network already trending globally. Michael took a deep breath and began. On October 14th of last year, I was invited to a private gathering at Mr. Sean Combs' residence in Holmby Hills. It was supposedly a post-award celebration, allegedly just for close friends. But upon arriving, I realized this was something entirely different. The judge leaned forward, jurors exchanged glances. In the corner, prosecutor Maria Sandoval took frantic notes. The environment was controlled by men in black suits, no identification badges. All phones were confiscated at entry. The guests seemed uncomfortably tense, as if being watched constantly. "Watched by whom?" inquired Prosecutor Sandoval. Michael hesitated, then said, "I don't know. But there were hidden cameras. I noticed small red LEDs in bookshelves and behind mirrors. Then I saw something I can't forget." He swallowed hard, his hands trembling slightly. "A secret room, behind a bookshelf. By chance I saw someone activate it and entered when it remained open. Inside, there were screens, controls, live feeds from every room in the house. Each guest was being filmed without consent. The impact was immediate. A woman in the gallery let out a muffled cry. The judge struck his gavel. "Order in the court," Michael continued. "I saw recordings of private conversations. Known figures, politicians, music industry executives, and more than that, records of agreements, cash payments, and what appeared to be a spreadsheet with codes and amounts next to names I recognized immediately." "Do you have proof of this?" asked Sandoval. "Yes. When I realized what it was, I recorded a segment with my smartwatch, which went unnoticed by security. It's with my attorney." The prosecutor raised a black folder and displayed a small drive. "Your Honor, we request this content be presented now." The tension was palpable. Lights dimmed. A large screen illuminated. The video showed clear images, private rooms, recognizable faces, including a former governor, and audio of compromising conversations. But what drew the most attention was a male voice saying, "This ensures silence for years, and if anyone talks, the committee executes." "What committee is this?" asked the judge, intrigued. Michael responded without hesitation. "They call themselves the Conductors, a kind of informal council that supposedly manipulates judicial decisions, million-dollar contracts, and even political appointments. And it all starts at the parties." One juror covered their mouth in shock. Another dropped their pen. At the back of the room, a defense aide appeared to frantically type a code on their phone before being interrupted by a court officer. The hearing was suspended for 15 minutes. Outside, reporters trampled over each other, seeking reactions. One shouted, "Michael, do you fear for your life after this testimony?" He stopped, faced the cameras, and replied, "Truth is greater than fear, and someone had to start." Subscribe to follow the next chapters of this investigation that shook the corridors of power. Hidden truths, unimaginable conspiracies, and shocking twists, all ahead. Subscribe now and stay informed of every revelation. 15 minutes after the video's impact, the courtroom was even more crowded. Last-minute attorneys huddled near the defense table while 2 federal agents reinforced security around Michael B. Jordan, who was now more than a witness. He was a living trigger of a systemic scandal. "Let's resume," announced Judge Mendelsohn. "And this time, everything said will be broadcast unedited." At the top of the courtroom, the screen again displayed paused frames from Jordan's video. It was a hazy recording, but clear enough to identify figures who should never have been there. CEOs of multinational corporations, a former CIA director, 2 sitting senators. Prosecutor Leanne Roth raised a new folder, this time stamped with a seal that sparked murmurs among the more attentive. "Confidential." Agreement DDA 146. This document was anonymously delivered to our team after Mr. Jordan's preliminary testimony. It contains the transcript of a meeting held at the Standard Hotel Penthouse in West Hollywood 3 weeks before the party. She paused. It's a silence contract signed by 10 influential names from the entertainment industry and politics, all committed to protecting the integrity of the Eclipse Initiative. The judge adjusted his robes. Is this admissible? Yes, Your Honor. The document was digitally authenticated by 3 independent experts. Furthermore, one of the signatures is from Sean Combs himself. Tension escalated. Defense attorney Douglas Crane finally intervened. Your Honor, this is speculative, possibly obtained illicitly, without proven chain of custody. Objection overruled, Mendelsohn responded. The content will be read. The prosecutor opened the folder, carefully leafing through. Her voice was sharp as a razor. The undersigned agreed to maintain absolute secrecy about deliberations, practices, and strategies conducted under the Eclipse Project in exchange for legal, financial, and institutional guarantees. She looked at the jurors. Among the signatories, an NBA star, the director of one of the largest streaming platforms, and a 5-time Oscar-winning producer. Michael interjected. What I saw in that secret room was just the tip of the iceberg. They use these parties as screening. They choose who can be useful, who needs to be compromised, and who should disappear from the media map. Are you suggesting there's a systematic blackmail operation in progress? Asked the prosecutor. I'm saying that the celebrity system we know is sustained by an underground network of power and manipulation, and Mr. Combs's party was one of its epicenters. The judge turned to the prosecutor. What else do we have? An additional witness, Your Honor. A former employee of Diddy's security team who wishes to testify under protected identity. She claims to have been tasked with installing microphones in bathroom stalls and cameras in light fixtures. Where is she now? In an isolated room, accompanied by federal agents. At that moment, a figure covered by a black veil entered the courtroom, escorted by 2 FBI agents. She was tall, with firm posture, but visibly nervous. The judge authorized the use of a code name, Cassidy. Cassidy, Roth began. What was your exact function? Private security. But on several occasions I was instructed to perform unauthorized observation operations, as they called them. Who gave these orders? A man who identified himself only as Mr. Fontaine. I never saw his face, but everyone obeyed without question. Michael at the witness stand murmured, Fontaine. He was also on the spreadsheet. And what did Mr. Fontaine demand? Cassidy hesitated. Her voice trembled. He said we were building a control library, that the more material they had on each person, the stronger the network would be. They called it moral leverage. The prosecutor stood up. Did you see materials being used for blackmail? I saw contracts changing hands after certain videos were delivered. I saw celebrities change their political stances. I saw people disappear from media overnight. And always, there was a party involved. A juror began to cry. Another stood up and requested a break. The judge authorized it. In the anteroom, an intercepted phone call leaked to the press. It was a deep voice, unidentified, saying, if this court continues, Eclipse will become a storm, and no one will emerge unscathed. The next morning, the courthouse was surrounded by barricades and international media vehicles. Drones hovered over the main entrance. Helicopters circled in nervous loops, and protesters were divided between signs supporting Michael B. Jordan and cries of orchestrated slander. Inside room 214B, Judge Mendelsohn resumed the session with a somber expression. The previous day's revelations had transcended entertainment. Now there was speculation about institutional obstruction, money laundering, and federal crimes concealed under the glamour of million-dollar parties. Prosecutor Sandoval requested permission to introduce new evidence. This is an electronic safe seized during a sweep at the home of one of Sean Combs' collaborators, Mr. Erwin Delaney, known in circles as the guest curator. The name thundered through the room. Erwin Delaney was a recurring shadow at elite parties, rarely photographed, always described as the man who knew too much. The safe had been opened with a security warrant obtained after Cassidy's testimony. Inside, they found an encrypted hard drive, 3 Rolex watches with false compartments, and a brown leather notebook. On the cover, only one symbol, a total eclipse. The judge authorized reading the digital content. On screen, folders appeared labeled by dates and event names. Opening the Lux Ayug 2023 folder, the courtroom atmosphere froze. There were videos and audio cataloged by name, and there they were: Michael B. Jordan, Zendaya, Leonardo DiCaprio, and even members of European royalty. "Did Mr. Jordan consent to having his image used?" inquired the judge. "Never," he responded firmly. Prosecutor Leanne Roth navigated to a file called Vocal 7A Richter. The audio began playing. Confirmed. Fontaine authorized the shipment. After Vegas, contracts will be sealed. And if the press approaches, use the eclipse clause. No one dares break the silence. The room fell silent. "What clause is this?" asked one of the jurors, breaking protocol. Michael responded in a low voice. "A document that all VIP guests sign before entering. They call it an experience agreement. But there are hidden clauses about privacy, reputation, and sanctions for breaking confidentiality." Cassidy confirmed. "I saw people blacklisted from advertising campaigns, awards being redistributed, contracts torn up, all because they broke the eclipse clause." A new name appeared on the hard drive: Operation Web. Roth clicked. PDF documents began popping up on screen. Spreadsheets of transfers to fictitious foundations, links to offshore companies, triangulated deposits between Los Angeles, Cayman Islands, and Luxembourg, all connected, directly or indirectly, to parties organized by Combs and his associates. The judge temporarily suspended the session for expert analysis of the material, but before leaving, he made clear: the court now considers the possibility of transnational criminal association. During the recess, a team of journalists discovered that one of the defense attorneys had been photographed discreetly entering the building of the network that had broadcast, years earlier, a documentary about Hollywood rituals, now suspected of deliberately omitting information. Then came the day's biggest revelation. When experts opened the hard drive's final folder, they found something unexpected: a handwritten letter, scanned and stored under the name Final Proof. It was a confession, not from Diddy, nor from Fontaine, but from a former NSA executive, retired 6 years ago. In the text, he detailed how private parties at celebrity mansions were used as fronts for sensitive data collection operations, supposedly for strategic national security interests. He signed as JHW. The judge reconvened the session and read the letter aloud. At the end, total silence. Then, a single question echoed from the prosecutor. "Mr. Jordan, do you believe we're still talking about celebrity scandals?" Michael looked around, then at the cameras. "No, this isn't about fame. It's about control. And we're finally seeing who pulls the strings." The room exploded in voices. The judge struck his gavel. 48-hour recess for federal authorities, summons and case review. It was night when the courthouse reopened its doors for the last time. There was no audience, only closed-circuit cameras, federal authorities, and a new panel composed of 3 invited judges from different states. The Eclipse case had transcended jurisdictional boundaries. Now it was a matter of state. Michael B. Jordan, visibly exhausted, returned to the stand. His dark shirt was soaked with sweat. In the last 72 hours, he had transformed what began as testimony about a party into an implosion of the establishment. Prosecutor Leanne Roth opened proceedings with a surprising statement. "We've received a formal subpoena from the Senate Intelligence Committee. They want case files shared immediately. And there's an emergency clause, protection for all witnesses involved, including Mr. Jordan." Judge Mendelson nodded slowly. "Then let's proceed to the conclusion." At that moment, the courtroom lights flickered for a second. When they returned, a new figure was in the room. A tall, bald man in a gray suit, who introduced himself as Arthur L. Dresden, director of a clandestine division of the National Security Intelligence Service, previously unknown to the public. "Gentlemen, good evening. I'm here to present a final report compiled over the last 96 hours by a consortium of agencies. Its internal name is Kaleidoscope Dossier." He handed over a sealed envelope. The judge authorized the reading. The Eclipse Protocol was created in 1991 as a parallel initiative for strategic influence manipulation, based on 3 vectors: mass media, entertainment elite, and susceptible legislative instances. Its objective: to shape social perceptions on a large scale. Its parties, blackmail operations, and scripted scandals were merely maintenance methods. The document named 34 individuals still active in strategic positions. And most shocking, 3 of them had already been summoned to World Economic Forum meetings under the title of Cultural Stability Consultants. "This is a coup disguised as spectacle," murmured one of the judges. The dossier's final audio was an encrypted confession, with a male voice saying, "While you dance, we decide who sings. While you choose your idols, we decide who falls. But every architecture, sooner or later, cracks." Michael was called for the last time. "Mr. Jordan, do you wish to make a final statement?" He nodded, addressing the cameras directly. "I didn't do this to destroy names. I did it to return faces to the public. For decades, we've been watching a show written by invisible hands, but now we know who they are. And every story needs a true ending." The judge read the provisional verdict. "In light of the evidence, the court declares the dismantling of the informal structure known as Eclipse and the opening of federal inquiry against the names cited in the Kaleidoscope dossier.